What's up, wall fans, common sensors, and of course podcast consumers? Welcome to the video feed for episode 93 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We're getting a late start on this fine Sunday evening. Usually we're here in the afternoon, and we'll get into some of that. I'm just absolutely exhausted. This might be a slightly shorter episode. Who knows? It could go longer. I always try to figure out, and then, sometimes I think it's going to go long, it goes short. Anyway, all that being said, we got a lot to get into, so let's get straight into episode 93.
1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 93 on this fine first Sunday of December. I don't know why I'm tripping over the word Sunday. That's not a real hard word to say, but sometimes words are not easy for me, despite the fact that I speak about things for a living. But we can kind of move past that. Anyway, we're getting a late start on this particular episode. We'll get into some of that. It's not a big deal. It's just stuff was going on. So it's actually Sunday evening as opposed to Sunday afternoon. But that's okay. The good thing about that is that when it's evening, we can bring some beer into the studio. So I've got a fine, tasty brew from Stone Brewing. It is Fear Movie Lions. It's actually a hazy double IPA sitting at about 8.5. So if you pick up some of these, be aware that it is an 8.5. It's not a lower percentage beer. It's quite high. And I will say, if you're into that little, and I'm not being paid to say this, but they actually have 24 packs of this at Costco. Not the Fear Movie Lions, but the like a mixed pack. And the cool thing about the mixed pack is you get a lot of mixed packs from Stone, and they have the Stone IPA, and Stone IPA is fine, but it is like one of my least favorite of their beers. And the current 24 pack that they're carrying now does not have Stone IPA. It has the Scorpion Bowl instead, which is a much tastier IPA, of course, in my opinion. So if you're looking for that, they got them right over there at Costco. But of course, we're already getting tangented with the beer. As with every other episode, we kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, before episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's our official Facebook page. Make sure you're following us on Facebook if you're a Facebook user, and that's going to keep you updated on all new episodes, new content, new videos, all that good stuff. Most of it gets posted to Facebook. Speaking of videos, make sure you subscribe to our official YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Again, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. If you're sensing a theme here, it's a lot of /GoTellItToTheWall. That does not pertain to this next social platform that I always like to share, and that's my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean right there on Instagram. You're going to get all the photography content on there, which has really been beefing up a lot lately, especially if you're into a lot of the music that we discuss and kind of the trends and the scene that we talk the most about here. Then you're going to want to follow at SoCalSean on Instagram. So make sure you're doing that as well. And then, of course, we have the official website, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. It's going to have everything pertaining to Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It to the Wall, and, of course, me personally, Sean O'Rourke. So make sure you bookmark that one, and you're going to find links to those things I just mentioned, as well as links to our Patreon campaign right there. Support us if you have the means to do so and you want to. Every little bit helps through there. And if you don't want to get into the Patreon stuff, you can support us by picking up some Common Sense merch. The merch website links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Pick up some t-shirts, sweatshirts, wine glasses. Got all kinds of weird stuff up there. Weird, not bad weird, just funky. You're like, why can I get a Go Tell It to the Wall dish towel? Well, because we have them on the website and it was easy to do. So if you want one of those, you can pick that up too. Anyway, we're back after Thanksgiving break. That is the official end of the November gauntlet. We always get that pre-Thanksgiving episode in, but as you know, if you've been listening over the past couple months, the November gauntlet is kind of crazy. And now we move on to the December gauntlet, or the holiday gauntlet, as I like to call it, and we push through to the official annual holiday episode, and then we take our couple-week holiday break, and that's, as all of you should be doing, I take time to spend with the family and enjoy time off from school. My wife usually has some time off from work. I will still be working, but just not recording, so that's coming up soon. So now we're on the December gauntlet, I guess you could say, but we are officially back, and I will warn everyone, the exhaustion is real. I'm going to talk about why throughout the episode, but I was out working late last night, and then I did get to sleep in a bit this morning, but had to do some parenting stuff today, and we'll talk about that when we get into parenting. All good, fun stuff, but it did lead to my exhaustion, as well as put us recording later than preferred on this fine, like I said, first Sunday of December. All right, let's get into some digital trends. That's right. These are things happening around the digital platforms, social platforms, mostly what I find interesting or I want to rant about. If you're a longtime listener, you know where we're going with this. Now, the first one is hashtag expel USA. That's right. We're going to talk a little sports ball here for a minute. But if it's going to be sports ball, I find that even the casual fan is into football, or soccer, as we call it here in the U.S. And that is, like I said, hashtag expel USA. So during the World Cup, the United States soccer team had a website with like scores, and they had flags from what's called, and I don't want to get into all the details if you know nothing about soccer. It's in groups when it comes to the World Cup. So they had scores from their group in there. One of the teams in their group was Iran. Now, apparently what happened was a flag was put up, the Iranian flag. It was missing the middle portion, which stands for something, and it mostly has to do with a religious aspect to it. And here's the thing. Most Iranian fans got really upset, and I understand, but at the same time, it was on one little website. It was like that for a few hours, and of course, people got to jump on it and say, expel the United States soccer team. They shouldn't be playing in the World Cup, blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, there is a stipulation within the rules for the World Cup, which I don't know if rules mean anything for the World Cup, because the World Cup and FIFA are some of the most corrupt organizations on the face of the earth. That says you can't do that. You're not supposed to belittle another country, if we can, think of it that way. And we did find out that somebody running the website was doing it in solidarity with, and this is something we've been talking about for a couple months now, with the protests in Iran for women equality within Iran. So, okay, you can be a little upset. It's a flag. Here's the thing. How long have we been talking about fucking flags on this podcast? Quite a while, including United States flags, for the love of God. It's a flag. But fine, I'll give it to you. You can be upset it's disrespectful and everything else. And according to the rules, technically, you're not supposed to do that. You know what else it says in the rules? It says that you can't discriminate against anybody based on race, color, or sexual preference. So based on that, Iran should have never been allowed into the Olympics, because if you're not familiar with it, you are not allowed to be gay. It is illegal to be gay, be in any kind of same-sex relationship in Iran. They literally kill you for it. So they're upset about a flag, but let's point out the fact that they are clearly discriminating against citizens of the world. And if you're of a certain, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you cannot go to Iran. We talked about this before. Qatar is the same thing. The country that is hosting the World Cup right now discriminates against the LGBTQ community. So give me a fucking break with this, our flag, you have disrespected our flag, expel the U.S. Shut up. Shut up. Go look at your own country and what's wrong with everything going on there. I'm not saying the United States is perfect. Jesus Christ, it's not perfect by any means. But don't be pointing out silly things when you are literally killing people for being different. This is common sense. We're talking about digital trends here. This could have gone in common sense. This could have gone in a rant. It blows my mind that we allow countries to do these kinds of things, and then, sure, come play in this biggest thing in the world that everybody stops and watches for 3-4 weeks or whatever it is. Give me a break. That's just ridiculous. And of course, if you have heard anything about Twitter over the past, we've been talking about it over the past couple months, but over the past week especially, further melting down on Twitter and Elon Musk. Musk recently, this past week, came out and said, we're going to have some crazy breaking news. Get ready for it. And everyone's like, well, all right, what's going on? What's going on? This long thread. And I'll be honest, I started reading the thing. But I was like, all right, this is one of those TLDR, too long, didn't read situations. I don't have time for this. Just give me the basics of it. And essentially what it was calling out Twitter from 6 years ago or whatever, years ago, because Biden's campaign had asked for the removal of an image of his son, Hunter Biden, on Twitter. Everyone's all, oh, Hunter Biden's laptop and all this other stuff. And it's just like, again, look at your own campaign and your own party before you're looking at these things. But here's the bottom line. They were basically trying to remove revenge porn. This is a legal situation. You cannot post naked photos of people without their permission. It's simply not allowed. It is against the law in this country. That's where the term revenge, and in finger quotes, revenge porn, because it's not pornography, but it's essentially revenge porn. So Musk hyped it up, decided that was the big thing, and that's really what it came down to. And then everyone jumped on it and said, how can the president of the United States censor Twitter? Well, first of all, it's fucking law. It's pretty simple there. And second of all, Biden was not president at the time. It's amazing to me how everyone can turn their back to other things, specifically Jared Kushner receiving $2 billion from Saudi Arabia while he was a part of the White House administration, as opposed to Hunter Biden having a nude photo while his father was not even in the White House. It's amazing to me how people just pick and choose. And that's why we do this, because we like to bring common sense into it and say, and Musk has lost it completely. It's really absurd. He is an ultimate troll. And he's just looking for attention. I have a 6-year-old. She doesn't look for attention near as much as Musk does. And I don't know how old he is, but he's older than 6, for the love of God. Anyway, we're going to talk more about Musk later when it comes to common sense, because I've been thinking a lot about it. And I've found something really easy that we can do to avoid these situations in the future. And maybe we should start doing that. All right, moving along. Hashtag Spotify Wrapped. Yes, this is the time of year where I feel completely out of place because I don't use Spotify. and I'm fine all year. I'm like, I got my music. I own all my music. That's how I roll. I listen to my own music. But then everyone gets to post these cool Spotify Wrapped things. And I'm like, well, I don't have any Spotify Wrapped to post here. So I do get a little bit jealous. But again, it lasts for like a week. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, Spotify. I don't want to use that stuff. And I'm not going to criticize anyone for using Spotify. But this is a trend that's going around right now, and everyone likes to share their yearly recap. I actually don't mind seeing them sometimes. Everyone complains, and everyone points out, well, Spotify doesn't pay artists and blah, 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 blah. The one thing I will say on that from a common sense standpoint is if you have a giant band that makes a lot of money, yes, they're not paying you well. But if you're like in your garage and you have a band and you're just kind of putting out your own music, that fraction of a cent or fraction of a dollar that you're getting is better than nothing. Again, I don't use Spotify, and I'm not going to sit here and debate it with anybody. I understand completely that side of it. And there was an interesting thing where they did an extra thing this year, and it's just festivals. Oh my gosh, music festivals. And they created a music festival lineup, like a 3-day lineup based on everybody's top listening. So you've probably been seeing those flying around. I have seen them constantly. And it's something I can't participate in. I just look at them and say, oh, that's interesting. Or you find somebody that's got a bunch of like metal or rock and roll, and suddenly there's like Sesame Street or something, which would partly be mine if I had a recap from all the music that I own that I run through YouTube Music on my phone, because sometimes I got to play music for my 6-year-old. So it's totally understandable. But of course, we probably got another week or two of that happening, and then moving on to a new year, and everyone will start racking up for next year's Spotify Wrapped. So hashtag Spotify Wrapped. And this one I just enjoyed. I thought it was pretty funny. Hashtag Why Women Dump Men. First one that came to mind was because they're supporting Trump and or the Proud Boys. The other one that I thought was really funny because it's a common joke that happens every time, like end of August, beginning of September rolls around for the large amount of American football fans in this country that basically disappear on the weekends for a few months watching professional and college football. That would definitely be a reason. I mean, my wife but, there's a balance. You can't just be like, this is what I do on the weekends. No, you can watch some football and not dedicate your entire 3, 4, 5 months to it. There's other things to do, for God's sake. And we live in a world where you get to see highlights afterward, and you can follow scores even if you're out doing activities on a Saturday or Sunday. Don't pigeonhole yourself into doing nothing but staring at a TV for 2 days every week. And now with the NFL in this country, everyone's probably not completely familiar with it, but you got Monday games, and you got Thursday. It's like, Jesus. This last weekend we had this weekend we had Friday college football games. Like, oh my God, every day football. It's really just madness. Anyway, let's move on to a little bit of mental health here. I'm definitely going to get a sip of my Stone Fear Movie Lions. I'll tell you, with the Stone Fear Movie Lions, it has FML in big. When I first saw this, like a year ago, it's been around for a while. I was like, Stone FML, which is, if you know, fuck my life. A lot of people post that, and I was like, oh no, Fear Movie Lions. Well, that doesn't make much more sense either, but there's an explanation on the back. I don't care enough. I just like a tasty beer. I'm not going to get into the theatrics of why they named it a certain thing. All right, mental health. I hate talking about the guy, but we're going to talk about him a few times throughout this episode, and that would be Kanye West. The guy is absolutely unhinged. If you didn't see this week, he went on InfoWars with Alex Jones, with that other guy. I don't even like to say the other guy's name, but he is essentially a white supremacist, widely known, and says things that he owns it. It's not even like he's trying to deny it, like some politicians do. But he and Kanye went on Alex Jones InfoWars. Kanye is wearing a completely black mask, so you can't see his face. And not even a ski mask where you see, nothing. It's like, those crazy green suits that people wear and their faces. Yep, something like that. I don't even understand what the hell he's doing. But a couple clips of it were floating around. And it was the point where I saw a couple clips and I was like, holy shit, how bad do you have to be where Alex Jones is the voice of reason in the room? Literally gave Kanye a chance to denounce being a white supremacist and being a fan of Hitler and being a fan of Nazis. Kanye did not do this. He leaned into it, just kept going on into it. And that's why we're going to be talking about him a little bit throughout the episode, depending on our certain sections. But I want to talk about it from a mental health standpoint because for those of you that are not aware, Kanye West at one time was diagnosed as bipolar. So as he was moving through his rise to ultimate ridiculousness and destroying his persona and his career, a lot of times people would say, it's a mental health issue. He has a mental illness. He needs help. Let me tell you, as somebody that has dealt with mental illness for the majority of my life, there is not a single mental illness on the face of the earth that makes you a Nazi. That's just not something that happens. Period. Let alone saying it once or just completely owning it and going around and spewing it and spewing it and spewing it and spewing it. And the reason this is important to bring up is because it's ignorance. We always talk about ignorance when it comes to mental health and mental illness. And there is still people out there saying, well, he needs help. He needs mental help. No, he doesn't. And maybe he does to an extent, but that's not what's making him sympathize with Hitler and the Nazis and talk about how cool Hitler was. These are literally words that have come out of his mouth. Not a single mental illness on the face of the earth that's going to make you do that. I don't care if it's your bipolar, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. None of that is going to make you say those things. So this is why it's important to talk about this, because you can't let ignorance dictate perception. We have to fight back against this. We constantly, when we talk about mental health, from the very beginning of this episode, this podcast in 2016, we've talked about ignorance. And a lot of times it's small things, and it's simply just educating people. People that like to say, I'm so OCD today. And you're like, wait a minute, no, can I explain to you how that's not right? But that's nowhere near the extreme that we're at. And that's why you cannot let people like this, like Kanye West, dictate perception. You cannot let people defending him dictate perception, because it has nothing to do with his mental illness. There might be a fraction of it that is affecting him at this time, but no mental illness turns you into a Nazi sympathizer. That's science. It's common sense and science. And this is what we fight against on an almost daily basis, is that ignorance and people trying to control the narrative around mental illness and mental health. There are plenty of people out there that deal with debilitating mental illness that do nowhere near the things that Kanye West has done. Or Ye, is that what they call him again? Yeah, and that's why we continue to talk about mental health and mental illness. It's very important. So if you're seeing this, if you're somebody that deals with mental illness, don't let other people rope you into that category of ridiculousness that is somebody like Kanye West. And if you're someone that has never dealt with mental illness, know that this is not common. This is not something that pertains to mental health or mental illness. I will give there could be a small fraction of it. But no, nothing like this. Nothing at all like this. So stay strong out there and call it out. Educate others and call it out. Because there's no excuse for that being lumped together. The dude has many other problems. It doesn't have to do with him being bipolar. All right, let's move along to some positive news. I had to tell you, I was having some trouble finding some good positive news this weekend. And not because there's nothing out there. You know, there's stuff out there. But what I do want to talk about, and I'm going to do this a few times throughout the episode, because we're going to talk more about Kanye later. And we're going to talk more about the Orange Menace later. But what I want to talk about from a positive news perspective is we finally have more GOP and Republicans calling out the Orange Menace. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say they aren't still horrible people for taking away women's rights, LGBTQ rights, not caring about their actual constituents. That's not, I don't want to delve into that right now. We've talked about that many, many times over the years. But to me, it is positive news because finally, there's a fucking line. There's a fucking line. You know, years ago, the Orange Menace said I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and everyone would still love me. We all kind of thought that was true, and to an extent, it probably still is. But we've hit a point with a couple of different things here. It will keep him out of the White House, which is a big positive side of it. And we're going to talk about what exactly has been happening as we get into common sense. And as much as I am not going to give a good on ya to these Republicans that are finally calling him out, it is a positive step to see that there's a high likelihood that we're not going to see the Orange Menace in the White House again in 2024, which I'll tell you was a scary prospect because he lost bigly, as he would say, I guess, in the last election, in the 2020 election. But who knows what would have happened in 2024. Now, of course, the negative side of that is we're probably going to get Orange Menace Light, which is that son of a bitch down there in Florida, Ron DeSantis. But at least he'll be slightly reined in, for the love of God. Not inciting violence and trying to overthrow the government. We're going to get into more of that with the Orange Menace as we get into common sense. All right, let's talk some parenting. My voice is not completely here, but it's not completely gone like it was the last time, so I'm working through it. Luckily, the Stone Fear movie Lions is helping. I keep those vocal cords hydrated. It's actually what Lynn Lee said last night at Anti-Fest as she was being passed a glass of whiskey. She said, so I'm going to use that from now. I'll keep the vocal cords hydrated here. All right, parenting. Holiday decorating. I don't know about all of you, and this is not even necessarily just parents. You know, if you decorate for the holidays, but especially parents out there, we tend to do it the weekend after Thanksgiving, regardless of the date, because the date for Thanksgiving obviously moves a little bit every year. It's around the same time, but it moves a little bit every year. We usually spend the weekend after Thanksgiving decorating. That was partly why we didn't record last Sunday. And I'll tell you, it is so much fun sorting through stuff with your kid. This is something I really enjoy. Now, of course, sometimes things get broken. My kid is finally getting to an age where she's not breaking as many things, but we did have a little broken ornament, which, you know, it's an older ornament, was kind of on its last legs, but for the most part, it's fun, like sorting through all this stuff and letting her, hey, hang this on the tree. What do you think? Where should we put this? And most of that pertains to decorating inside. We start at my house in the O'Rourke family. We start inside and then move to the outside. So we were pretty much done with the inside by Sunday. Well, it was Monday or Tuesday I decided to move to the outside. And my kid wanted to help. And I was like, fine, come on out and help. And it turned into a huge argument because she wanted to bring one of her toys outside but was not satisfied with how long story short, we were delayed by like a half an hour because she's trying to figure out where she's going to put her dog to take, not our dog, the stuffed dog, to take it outside, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, it's getting dark. I need some light to decorate the house. Can't be doing it in the dark. So I was definitely pulling a bit of a Clark Griswold. I wasn't falling off the ladder, but it was getting quite dark outside. I could not see my staple gun very well, and I'm trying to hang these lights on the roof very precariously from the ladder. It was quite an experience, and it always is, but when you have a 6-year-old running around yelling things and stuff, it just makes that a little more challenging. Now, once you get off the ladder, it's fine. It's like, okay, this is easier, but I was channeling my inner Clark Griswold. My house does not look like the Christmas Vacation house by any means, but the lights went up around the roof, so it was all in all a good day, but it was definitely too dark for safety reasons to be doing it. My wife was not happy. She usually likes to be out there to make sure I'm not falling off a ladder. I did come close a couple times, but didn't go down. And but now that they're up, we're over it. Yeah, holiday decorating. Jeez, it's always a challenge. And I'll tell you, from like not even from a parenting perspective, I do a similar setup of the lights every year, and maybe I'll do it this year, but I probably won't. I'm like, let me write down how I'm running all the power and the wires, because I'm running it out to like my gate and on my roof and everything. There's little characters out in the front lawn and then around the like the deck at my house. It's madness. And every year, January 6th or 7th, which is when you take down lights, I think 12 days after whatever it is. I forget, and I don't actually write it down. So I might, this year I'll try to do it, but I'll be honest, not going to remember. So I'm sitting, this is the thing, I'm like, oh wait, okay, I got to run this and this and this and this. Now it does get easier every year despite the fact that I don't write it down because I remember it more and more. But it would be smart, hot tip, if you got to run funky extension cords all over the place and make sure you're getting power to lights all over like your house, if it works, write it down, draw a little picture. Maybe I'll do that this year. I probably won't, but maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'll update everyone in January. Yeah. All right, holiday parade in the neighborhood. We have a annual holiday parade that happens here in Highland Park. It goes down a major road here in Highland Park. And the Girl Scouts this year were marching. And they probably marched last year, but my daughter did not join the Girl Scouts until after the holidays last year. She joined like right around cookie sale time. So she's not even been in Girl Scouts for a year. It'll be a year in like January, I think. And it was so much fun to see my kid doing it. And I love supporting the community and all the Girl Scouts. Everybody. They had the high school bands out there, cheerleaders, everything. And in true Highland Park style, they had these modded like pickup trucks that, and I don't even understand what, it was awesome, but I don't understand. The beds are like going up and funky and stuff. And it's almost like lowriders that are on the crazy shocks, but it's the bed of the truck that's like doing these things. It's really cool. So it was a lot of fun. But I will say, that's part of why the exhaustion is real. It's very close to the house. It's like less than a mile where it starts, but I wanted to be in prime position. And so my wife and daughter, they marched in it, that my wife went with, and it was, other Girl Scout moms and of course the troop leaders or whatever are marching with them. So they took the car and they drove to where it's starting, and then walked the parade. So I was, and they left a little before me. I was like, what time does it start? 1 o'clock. Great. I will walk over. I'll take the dog for a long walk. But the way I took a little longer route and get in prime spot on the parade route. So I had to walk about a mile with the dog. And after last night, which I'll get into once we get to entertainment news, I was quite exhausted. So then, of course, I have to get home. So I walk like little over a mile to get home. The one saving grace is I did go to Home State, which is a tasty it's a Tex-Mex. I'm not a fan of Tex-Mex, but they do it real well. You just can't think of it as like Mexican food because you get like brisket tacos and so much breakfast tacos and the homemade house-made tortillas, good stuff. So that was sustaining me as I'm walking home carrying a bag with some tacos in it. Like, I'm gonna eat these tacos as soon as we get home. But and it's like 58 degrees outside and I'm sweating because I'm exhausted from last night and probably not hydrated enough. I mean, I was hydrating last night, but still, it's just sweat's going, and the dog's like, he wants to mess with everybody and stuff. And the dog was fine for most of it until the marching bands came by. He's like, oh, cool, this is sniffing around, looking at everybody, sniffed a couple dogs, and then here comes the first marching band, and he just like, holy shit, literally between my legs. And I'm like, all right, bud, it's okay, it's just loud. He's never been that close to a marching band. But overall, it was fun, and it was great to support the community. I met some people just hanging out, having fun, and I'm there by myself with a dog. There's families like lined on the street. And it was a lot of fun for the community, I have alarms going off. I keep my phone off, but that alarm goes off. Anyway, so lots of fun, and the kid had a blast doing it. And a new thing my kid's been doing is she got a kid tablet for her birthday this year, and I say kid tablet because it's one of those Amazon Fire tablets that's made for kids, and we can put restrictions on it and everything else. Well, a few days ago, she found out she could record videos of herself with the tablet facing her. And I don't want to say if this was a ruining my child's childhood or a proud moment, but she started recording some videos similar to the way that I do here in the Go Tell It to the Wall studio. And in fact, to the point, she's clearly emulating what I do, even to the point where she's using, and make sure you check out pets.com. I was like, oh my God, what's happening right now? She was doing this for like a couple hours the other day. Going, okay, let's take a break. Even Daddy's not doing it for this long. Let's take a little break from it. But I will say it was incredibly cute. And I got to say, you're all in trouble for her years from now when she takes over Go Tell It to the Wall. Because when I was her age, I didn't have the confidence to do that on video. It took me a long time to kind of catch my stride. I was terrified of public speaking. Until I was a teenager. I didn't like to perform. I didn't like to, if the school was doing like a pantomime play where you're not actually talking and there's like music, I was like, oh, perfect. I don't have to talk. I just, you need to walk over here to here. Great. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I got that ability. But unfortunately for all of you, my kid is a natural. So gird your loins for that one. Oh, and that's the other thing we've been doing in the house lately. And my kid's not even doing it so much out of anger necessarily. And I think it might just be the airflow in our house. But she's at the point now where she likes to close her door. And she's not doing anything bad in her room. But it'll end up slamming sometimes. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't close the door. And like the other day, I was, go get a pair of socks. We got to leave. And I hear, goosh. And it's like, just grab the socks. Why are we closing doors here? Well, finally hit this morning. I'm sleeping in because I was out quite late last night working a show. And I'm laying in bed, and I'm like half asleep, and her room's like next to ours. And it was a door slam, but it sounded like she fell, like out of her bunk bed or something. I jumped out of bed, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? She just slammed her door. And I was like, you have got to stop closing the door for no reason. And I'm sorry, Wall fans, I did it. I will probably never will actually do it, but I said it. I said, I will take this door off the hinges if you don't stop slamming it. She was quite remorseful. And even my wife came out and she was like, she could tell that I was like, oh my God, I like genuinely thought she got hurt. And she's like, and my wife's like, tell Daddy you're sorry. And she's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, it's okay. It's just, please be careful. I was just worried that something happened. And she goes, and please don't take my door off the hinges. I was like, I'm probably never going to take it off, but I can't promise I won't threaten that again someday. And she's only 6. So, I mean, another long time of this. I guarantee if not, before then, by the time she's a teenager, it will come out again. Oh, man. Made that threat. Oops. All right, and this is a overall story that happened recently at a Van Nuys middle school. And it's so you see these news stories come across, and they're like overdoses at Van Nuys middle school. And we've been getting them at high schools, the fentanyl problem that's been going on around the country. And I remember I saw it this past week, and I went, oh, my God, a middle school? And they made it sound like it was fentanyl. But then you go and you read the story, and they've investigated, and they find out it was some cannabis edibles. So then, of course, the media starts comparing it to fentanyl. And it's like, you know what, I get it. That scared the hell out of me, too. I'm terrified. I experimented with a lot of drugs in my youth. You can't do that anymore because you don't know what's in the drugs. It's terrifying. But you also can't lump in cannabis edibles with fentanyl. If you're going to go after cannabis edibles, you're also going to have to ban alcohol because we're looking at the same types of things here. You're not going to overdose off edibles. For those of you not familiar with it, you're not going to overdose. And in fact, most of the time, you might need some medical care because you're freaking out a little bit. But a lot of times, you're not even going to have to get your stomach pumped the way you do with alcohol poisoning. So calm it down, media and parents. It's not fentanyl. And you should keep it away from your kids, but you also keep alcohol away from your kids. This is where it comes down to parenting. As we're talking about the parenting segment here on Common Sense Sundays. And all the kids were fine. This wasn't like a lot of the recent fentanyl things where a couple kids passed, and a couple kids went into critical condition at hospitals. No, they were all fine. They just needed some treatment because they're not used to it. The same way they would if some kid brought alcohol to a middle school. So make sure you understand the difference between fentanyl and cannabis edibles and alcohol. Right? Common sense? Yeah. Speaking of common sense, let's get into some common sense. All right, Proud Boys. Oh, man. Proud Boys in the news lately. When are the Proud Boys not in the news? They're always doing something fucking stupid. Well, recently, and this is happening more and more, but this was a story that came out this past week, and I think it happened again, just today, in another town. They're going out to, finger quote, protest things like drag shows, and if you're not familiar with a thing called Drag Queen Story Hour. Drag Queen Story Hour is fucking awesome. If you have a chance to take your kid there, it is fantastic, it is wholesome, it is entertaining, and it's just one of the greatest things you can do. And it teaches your children inclusivity, on top of it just being a great time. So they go out, and here's the thing with Proud Boys. They're not out there with signs protesting. I'm sure they had some signs. They go out there in full tactical gear with these giant, whatever kind of AR-15, whatever kind of fucking stupid compensating for their small dick guns that they have out there. So, it's a peaceful protest and blah, blah, blah. This is on the heels of what happened in Colorado Springs at the gay nightclub. This is why things like that happen in this country. Because we allow groups like the Proud Boys to go out there and threaten with guns. And now since then, of course, we've had to have a lot of drag shows around the country, drag queen story hours canceled for safety reasons because they don't want anyone getting hurt. So I guess in a way the Proud Boys have accomplished what they've wanted to do, but who's the real problem here? I gotta tell you, there has yet to be a single story of a child molested or anything at a drag show. How many stories of children being molested at churches have we dealt with over the past 40 years? Ask yourself, what's more dangerous for a kid? I'm sitting here saying don't take your kids to church. What I'm saying is don't come after what is important to a lot of people. A lot of people. Stuff like drag shows and drag queen story hour. Who's the real problem? It's the Proud Boys. And if you want to support common sense, I'd encourage you to go to Chaos Merch and pick yourself up a Fuck the Proud Boys shirt. I proudly have one in my drawer. I have to be careful when I wear it because I can't wear it to my kid's school to pick her up. And it's not that I don't want people to know I fucking hate the Proud Boys. It's just I don't want kids learning to read F you so it's just not appropriate. You know what I mean? All right, moving along. Deshaun Watson. We've been talking about that son of a bitch for a few months now. Well, he hit the point where he came off of suspension and he is allowed to play in the NFL, the National Football League now. And today, this Sunday was his very first game back after his long suspension. I'm happy to say he played horribly. Didn't throw a single touchdown pass. He fortunately won the game, but for those of you not familiar with football, the defense is what helped the team to win the game. They literally played the worst team in the league. But fortunately, he was booed, incessantly booed, and I got to say, no matter where he's playing, if you're going to one of those games, he should be booed every time he touches the field. We cannot let sexual predators make millions of dollars playing a fucking game. That's just common sense. All right, Trump and Kanye. Oh, God. This is what I was talking about. As I said, we're going to talk about it again, and here we are. So Trump decided to host Kanye West and that other guy, Nick Fuentes. I don't even like saying his name. At Mar-a-Lago. This is part of why this and what I'm going to talk about shortly is partly why finally the Republicans were like, well, we cannot support him hanging out with white supremacists and Nazis. Just can't. Well, that's kind of common sense. Well, what came back from the Orange Menace side of things is he claimed that he didn't know that Nick Fuentes and Kanye were Nazi supporters and fans of Hitler. Here's the thing. I don't know about all of you out there, Wall fans. Usually if somebody's coming to my house for dinner, I know who they are. I don't just have random people coming into my house for dinner. On top of that, I'm not a former president of the United States of America who has an entire staff and Secret Service screening anybody coming to see him. As, what's his name would say? Maury Povich. And that was a lie. The Orange Menace lying his ass off, as usual. Really? Just random? Fuck off. You're telling me just random people are coming to your home in Florida and you're hosting them for dinner and you have no idea who the fuck they are? Give me a break. That makes no sense whatsoever. And the fact that nobody on his team or his Secret Service detail were able to be like, yo, this guy's a Nazi. Maybe you shouldn't have dinner. Nope. And again, fortunately, we're finally seeing some repercussions from it. But of course, not enough, because he's still going to have supporters within the Republican Party. He's still going to have people waving Trump flags. He's still going to have the stupid Proud Boys running around supporting him. But hopefully it'll be enough to keep him from any kind of office in the future. All right. And this, I want to talk about this before we get to the next. No, actually, I'm going to go back to that. The other thing that's gotten Trump in hot water this week is he took to his platform, Truth Social, and literally said we need to abolish the Constitution and reinstall him as president of the United States of America. This is the other thing that finally Republicans were like, yeah, we cannot support doing that. For those of you unaware what politicians in this country do, they literally, what's the word I'm looking for? They take an oath to uphold the Constitution. A literal oath to uphold the Constitution. Here we have a former president of the United States of America saying that we should abolish the Constitution. The one thing I will say that's great about that is I would love all the gun nuts to be like, oh, well, 2A, Second Amendment. Well, we abolished the Constitution, so get rid of your fucking guns. Like, you always fall back on that shit. But, of course, we're not going to abolish the Constitution. We're not going to reinstall the Orange Menace in the White House. When will it end? Why do we have to keep doing this? There's just not enough common sense in this fucking country to be like, yo, that guy is a madman. He is a megalomaniac and a madman and a con artist and tried to overthrow the government of this country and is still trying to do that. I am not a fan of the government or politicians, but good Lord, this is not things we can do. If you weren't aware, it's not something we should do. And speaking of rich assholes spewing hate, I was thinking about this over the past week or so. I think we need to stop the rich assholes early. And I think Kanye West and Elon Musk are great examples of this. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I haven't liked Kanye at all. I never liked him. He had a good song in like 2002, that song that I enjoyed. And it was really only because I enjoyed, it was that Stronger song. And it's a good workout song, I'll tell you. Since then, we always knew he was a nut, and it just gradually got worse. And now he has hit the point where he's pushing the envelope, and he has become a Nazi. Elon Musk. I've known since the beginning that he's not actually smart. He didn't invent Tesla. He didn't found Tesla. He didn't do anything technologically. He just had a bunch of money that debatably, and I say is, that he illegally obtained, which do some research. I'm not going to get into those fine details. And bought a company and pushed everybody out that created all the stuff in it. And now look where we are. We have Kanye, who's a Nazi, and Elon Musk, who just wants to see the fucking world burn. I mean, really? So what we need to do is, people used to praise Kanye. Up until a few years ago, I had friends that were like, Kanye's a genius. Like, I'm sorry, what? What are you talking about? And still lately, I've had to educate people. I know people personally that were like, whoa, Elon Musk, he's so smart and such an inventor. It's like, no, he didn't do shit. He just bought a company that people created, smart people created, and now he owns it. He doesn't know a goddamn thing. But we all lift, Elon Musk and Tesla and blah, 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 blah. Nip it in the bud. Stop it early. That's what we got to start doing, because now it's normalized. They hit a point where they're like, well, fuck it, I can do this. And we just let them do it. Plain and simple, we got to do that. Most importantly, I would like to ask anyone out there that believes in this, where the fuck is cancel culture? Tell me, where is cancel culture? We always say, it's cancel culture. We're going to cancel, blah, 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 blah. Kanye West is still getting interviews. We're still giving him airtime. Elon Musk owns one of the biggest social platforms around. And he still gets airtime. Nobody's getting canceled. They have money and they have a platform, and they're going to continue doing that. Biggest bunch of bullshit. So it's cancel culture. Well, no, I'm not going to listen to Elon Musk or Kanye West. But obviously there's no cancel culture that's getting them out of the spotlight. So give me a break with that shit. I'm exhausted. I just can't with this anymore. And they still have supporters. All three of these vile individuals still have supporters. Between Kanye and Musk and Orange Menace. How? How can you stand there and support that? How can you be like, oh, it's fine. Oh, that's not what they meant. What do you mean it's not what they meant? That son of a bitch is literally on InfoWars and making Alex Jones the voice of reason. I didn't think that was possible. Alex Jones is one of the most vile human beings on the face of the earth. He's the voice of reason in that room? Good Lord. Step back and look at it, Wall fans. Ugh. All right, let's get into some entertainment news, and we're going to wrap it up for episode 93. And I got to say, I have so many recaps because of the November gauntlet to get through. And we're going to get through them, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and we'll go back a little bit in the next couple episodes. All right, Travis Barker. This could have gone in digital trends, but I don't think it was necessarily trending too much. I just happened to catch it. Travis Barker of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, because that's essentially what he is now. I'm not even going to give him credit for being in Blink-182 anymore. He's a Kardashian. But the reason I bring this up is he actually tweeted out and asked everyone, what do you want on the new Blink-182 album? And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. So I scrolled through some of the comments. I don't even follow Travis Barker, but somebody had retweeted it. And I scrolled through the comments, and there were quite a few people saying, not Machine Gun Kelly. I am in full support of that. And I will add to that, keep the Kardashians the fuck out of it. Please don't decide that one of them needs to be a singer or something stupid. Put them on the album or put them on the... I don't even know what it would be, but I could see them doing something fucking stupid like that. Don't let them do that. Hopefully Mark and Tom are like, Travis, shut up. Just go over there, play the drums. Hopefully that happens. But I was happy to see the support of no Machine Gun Kelly. For the love of God, no Machine Gun Kelly. I do not care at all for that guy. All right, new trailer dropped this week for a movie called Cocaine Bear. Most of us are familiar with this because it's kind of a viral thing. There was a bear that ingested a ton of cocaine and went on a rampage and then died. And so, of course, and I believe it's Elizabeth Banks. Apologies for not... I thought I'd heard that. I'm not positive on it. Don't quote me on it. But I believe it's Elizabeth Banks. Uber talented. She's a great director. Great actress, great director. But watch this trailer immediately if you haven't seen it yet. It is cheesy, crazy fun, and I cannot wait for it. I'm watching the trailer. I'm like, oh, my God. And I don't know if it falls into a horror movie or thriller or whatever, but it looks like it's a little closer to a Sharknado or something. Maybe not as ridiculous as a Sharknado. I mean, it's a bear on cocaine, but it is a true story. So, we don't have a shark tornado ever that existed. But oh my gosh, it looks like it's done so well. And I cannot wait to see this damn thing. So make sure you're checking out that trailer for Cocaine Bear. All right, I want to shout out a new album that just dropped less than a week ago, I believe it was, and it's by a band called The All Right. The All Right. Yeah, right? I had to think. The All Right. Yeah. I mean, it's T-H-E, but my 7th grade grammar is coming back to me, and I was like, is the or the? I think it's The All Right. Anyway, new album from The All Right, and it's called In Loving Memory, just released. It's available on Bandcamp. I will say I'm a little biased. It's two brothers, that have created this band and this album, Johnny and Jamie. They have become good friends. I love hanging out with them at shows, and they should be putting on a show hopefully in the very near future that I'll promote for them and be attending. I haven't had a chance to give a really deep dive into the album, but I highly recommend checking it out on Bandcamp. They have it up there for free right now, but throw them a couple dollars. You know, I went and I definitely threw them because I was like, you're giving me music, man. Here's some money, you know, and they're gracious enough to put it out there for free to get their names out there. So make sure you're checking out the All Right on Bandcamp. Should be coming to, I believe it'll be coming to Apple and like YouTube Music and those platforms soon as well, and probably Spotify, all that stuff. But right now it is on Bandcamp. You can go listen on Bandcamp. You can download it on Bandcamp. Throw them a few dollars. They've also got some stickers up there on Bandcamp, and I didn't have a chance. Just got a couple last night. You'll see one on the wall probably for the next episode. Actually, I don't know. I got a pile. I'm so bad with the stickers. What happens is I get a pile of like a dozen stickers here, and then I go, oh shoot, I got to start putting new stickers on the wall, and then you like there will be an episode, and the next episode it's like, whoa, there's a whole that got a bunch of new stickers up there. So that's kind of how it happens. But again, check them out. The All Right on Bandcamp. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the other reason that I am absolutely exhausted today. I had the privilege of going to Anti-Fest last night in Pomona at the Glass House. And it's a show that's put on by Anti-Flag. That's why it's called Anti-Fest. They do it yearly. I don't know if this is like third, fourth. They've been doing it a couple years now. All the fun was had at the Glass House. Now, I will be honest. I was spoiled. I was able to pick up a photo pass for this one. Huge shout out to the Bomb Pop, specifically Remington Pierce, who has become a great friend of mine, for hooking it up with the photo pass. I was able to bring my real camera and get some great shots from the camera as well as from the stage. So if you see some videos from Anti-Fest, specifically for the Bomb Pops and Bad Cop, it's one of those situations. I know those bands really well. So I didn't want to jump on stage and start shooting for Anti-Flag because I don't really know them that well. I kind of know Reed from We Are the Union. We've met a few times. But again, I didn't want to jump on stage, and especially because it's that intimidation factor of Ray Mystic is running around, and they are just ridiculously talented. So I'm up there, and I'm just like, I got to stay to the side here because I don't have the talent that you do. Definitely. That's the thing. I had a blast, but I definitely was experiencing some imposter syndrome. For those of you that are aware of that term, that's what's going on. So gonna have a bunch of photos of that, but just had an absolute blast. Great bands out there, running into all the friends. Sidewalk Project was out there getting donations for all the great work that they do. If you're not familiar with Sidewalk Project, please follow them on Instagram. They are a fantastic organization that helps houseless people, as well as harm reduction and mental health matters. Specifically here in Los Angeles, they do a ton of work on Skid Row, just hands-on work. Hands-on. They're out there helping houseless people, and especially this time of year because a big thing is like blankets and jackets and socks and all that kind of stuff. So just a fantastic event put on. And like I said, I had the privilege of running around with my actual camera as opposed to just my phone. And I've been getting that a lot. For those of you, again, at SoCal Sean on Instagram, a lot of people there, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I use my phone. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm not tooting my own horn. Trust me, I'm full of imposter syndrome right now. I was very intimidated last night. But it was great to be out there with my actual camera and kind of literally utilizing skills that I went to school for. That's the thing, as I was really out of photography for a long time outside of doing stuff for the podcast, and a little bit of photography here and there and, nature photography and stuff. But it's great to kind of get my feet wet again in that because I am technically a college-educated photographer. It's just been a long time. I've been out of college for a long time, but I went to film school and focused a lot of that, my creative stuff on photography. A lot of my art classes were photography classes because, you could kind of, it's film school, but for those of you not familiar, you have to take a certain thing, but if you're focusing on editing, you're taking a ton of editing classes. If you're focusing on acting, you're taking a lot of acting classes, whereas I took like one editing class. Oh my God, one acting class because I could not act, but focus on photography and producing. So technically, I am a college-educated photographer. So again, thank you to everyone. We Are the Union put on a fantastic show. Bomb Pops, they are great as always. all four of them up there just absolutely killing it. Bad Cop had a great show, and they took some time to promote Sidewalk Project. And then Anti-Flag, as Josh of Bomb Pops will tell you, the greatest live band ever. And he will fight you on it. So I'm not going to fight Josh. I love Josh, but I might argue that a little, but they are fantastic live. I can tell you that. And I had the privilege of shooting Anti-Flag as well. I just didn't want to get on the stage. I ended up on the side of the stage at one point because we're all kind of hanging out there, but I was not about to jump up there with my camera and get in their way because I do not know them well enough. I know Bomb Pops and Bad Cop well enough, so literally I say to Josh, "Hey, Josh, can I come get in your face when you drum?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, shut up." And Myra from Bad Cop, "Can I come shoot while you're drumming?" She's like, yeah, I know you. It's all good. If you were some weird creep random dude, I'd be like, "No, please don't." But, and again, you don't just stand there in their way. You get up and shoot a little. Takes me back to my days of being in film school and shooting live events, which was a lot of fun. All right, one last thing, and then we're going to wrap it up for this episode 93 of Common Sense Sundays. If you're watching the video, you may have noticed I am wearing the November design from Bassists Against Racists. That's Michelle, from the bassist from Go Betty Go. We are now into December, which means there is a new Bassists Against Racist design. It is Brad Majors of the Bronx. The Bronx, really, if you haven't seen the Bronx, I mean, their music is great, but they also put on a fantastic live show. I don't listen to a lot of their music at home, but when I have the opportunity to catch them, like we did at Punk in the Park, they're a fantastic live band. But that would be the newest design. The December release for Bassists Against Racists. And as a reminder, it is art by the uber-talented Paul Smith of Zombie Teeth Clothing. It is the brainchild of Lynn Lee from Bad Cop. Had the privilege of shooting Lynn last night while they were playing. And, of course, if you're ordering that in the United States, you're going to go through Chaos Merch. And I think it's just, I don't know the exact URL. Just look up Chaos Merch. It's probably chaos.com with a K. That's Gabby Chaos who prints those. I'll actually be seeing her next weekend. And if you want one of those Fuck the Proud Boys shirts, just order one of those as you pre-order your December design for Bassists Against Racists. And and if you're in Europe or I believe Canada as well, you can order through T-Mom Merch. Follow all of those accounts on Instagram, and you're going to get updated when there's new Bassists Against Racist stuff, and they'll post the URLs for it. And I do want to say a funny story about Bassists Against Racists, because I love Paul. I love everybody that's involved with Bassists Against Racists, and it's kind of a thing we do when I'm out at shows, me and a couple other people. If we see a Bassists Against Racist shirt, it's like, "Oh my gosh, hey, that's great. We love it." And sometimes we'll take a picture and send it over to Paul or Gabby or whoever else. So last night, a very good friend, PD, who I hang out with at shows like crazy, and coincidentally, I met him originally months and months ago because he was wearing a Bassists Against Racist shirt. So I'm standing in the back with a couple friends last night during the show. I'm taking a break from shooting, and I look, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a Bassists Against Racist shirt." And it's a guy with glasses, similar hair to PD, and he's wearing a mask. And PD often is wearing a mask if he's close to people at shows. So I'm going to go say hi, and I walk up, and I kind of pat him on the shoulder, and I'm like, "You are not PD, but you look a lot like my friend who is often wearing Bassists Against Racist shirts." And I forgot it. I want to say his name was Patrick or something, and I was like, "Oh, if I see Bassists Against Racists, Paul Smith, great friend, if I see Bassists Against Racists, I tend to say hi, like, what's up, and like, cool shirt." And he's like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "I think we did this at the MXPX show a couple months ago." And I went, "Yeah, that makes sense." Because, like I said, if I see a Bassists Against Racist shirt, I'm talking to that person. In fact, my good friend Adam Levy, who part of King Rock Podcast, he owns every single one of them. I don't think I've seen him in a shirt that wasn't a Bassists Against Racist t-shirt, because he's got enough that he can constantly wear them to shows. So again, make sure you're picking up your December design with Brad Majors of the Bronx. You unfortunately cannot get the design that I'm wearing anymore, but this is the November design featuring Michelle from Go Betty Go. All right, man, exhaustion is real. This beer is tasty, though. Again, if you're into the hazy IPAs, it's a super tasty one. In fact, I've talked to random people like ordering one or whatever, and they're like, "That's one of the tastiest beers." I'm like, "I don't know if it's one of the tastiest, but it's tasty. I like it. It's good." So try that one out if you're into the hazies. And again, 8.5. It's a little strong. Be ready for it. That is the worst. It's happened to me. I'll drink a beer and I'm like, "Ooh, this is tasty." And because this is one of those ones that's smoother. It doesn't taste like a higher alcohol content beer. But if you're a beer drinker, we've all been there, and you're like, "This is good," and then you're like, I'm a little buzzed right now. Why? You look at the bottle, you're like, oh, that's why. This is 8.5 or 9.5 or 10. Like, got some beers for my birthday. I have to look because everybody just brought me craft beer for my birthday, and some of them are like 10.5, and I'm going, oh, okay. Now be aware of that. You can have one of these, and that's it, because you will just want to go to sleep. I mean, maybe two. No, one of those. That's what I tend to do at shows. I will go and I will have a nice IPA, not an 8.5. I'll have like a 6, and then I'm like, PBR, please. Like last night, I had a tasty one, and it was like my one beer. You don't have time to drink beer when you're shooting a show because like, gotta go there, camera, stage, everything else. And then a good friend of mine, Eric, bought me a beer, and I was like, give me an 805. 805, I'm good. I had my tasty beer. I'll have an 805. Finish up shooting, and we're good to go. All right, now that we got tangented on beer, that is going to do it for us here with Common Sense Sunday, episode 93. Don't forget to follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/go tell it to the wall. Also, our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/go tell it to the wall. Of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. You're going to see a lot of concert footage, show footage, concert pics going up there very soon. There's already a bunch up there. More coming soon. And of course, make sure you bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com. And if while you're on there, check out Patreon if you have the means to do it and you want to, support us financially through Patreon. If you don't want to do Patreon, you can also support us financially through our merch website, which links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right, like I said, this has been episode 93 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Mall. I'm your host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We will be back next week, same wall place, same wall time. And until then, wall fans, and actually that reminds me, make sure you're checking out Suburban Clampdown down at Garden Grove Amphitheater. I will be down there on Saturday. I will also be down at House of Blues Anaheim for Social Distortion on Sunday. So we're going to have to get in the studio and record before I head down to Anaheim for Social Distortion. But remember, until next time, wall fans, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.